Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, 5th anniversary season. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, Chief Content Producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating, download this episode, and subscribe and download more episodes. I am thrilled to welcome this incredible performer as my guest today. As of this recording, she has over 100,000 Instagram followers. She's an Emmy, Grammy, and Tony-nominated recording artist actress. She has originated the roles of Mary Wells in the Motown musical and the Moon in the 2021 Broadway revival of Caroline or Change. She's also the conceiver, the executive producer, and star of the upcoming Broadway-bound Broadway musical, DANDRIDGE. Please help me welcome Nikenj to the podcast.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Nikenj, it's an honor to have you here. It's rare that I have an Emmy nominated, a Grammy nominated, a Tony nominated recording artist. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And it's been a whirlwind of a year, and yes, I'm happy that we're now in 2023. That's so crazy. Wow.
Actually, 2024.
No. Wow. But yes, thanks so much for having me, Jacob, and happy to meet and greet all of your following that truly appreciate the arts and the entertainment business. It's great.
Absolutely. So let's get started. So when did you get interested in performing, and how did that passion evolve and desire to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
Yes. Wow. Well, let's see. It's interesting because my parents named me Nikenji as it's an African name, and it means superior in mind, right? So I have this feeling that they were expecting that I would be like some doctor that like discovers a cure for cancer or something, and in essence, I've always been apparently attracted to music and the musical sounds. Like from age 6 months old, my mother used to tell me that I would try and emulate before I even started really talking, but emulating the sounds of the the water that was coming down into the bathtub. And so my mom would like scream to my dad, like, Nikenji's she's like singing, she's making some kind of noise. And then he was like, what do you mean? And then he would turn it off, and then I would just completely be like, I wouldn't make any more noise. Like they had to run the water in order for me to like try and make some type of musical sound. So they knew something was up at a very young age. I didn't really start getting seriously into singing until the age 12. At age 10, I discovered I had this voice. I was exposed to music at a very young age just because my parents loved to listen to Motown, and then I was listening to a lot of classical music because they put me in ballet and piano lessons at the age of 4. But when it came to actually utilizing the instrument that is my bread and butter, it didn't really happen until 10. And then at 12, I started taking private voice lessons at Home School of the Arts. Born and raised in New York, Bronx, and Brooklyn, and went to LaGuardia High School Performing Arts. And then I got exposed to classical music and realized that I wanted to be a big time opera singer like Leontine Price and Grace Bunbury and all, Jesse Norman, all these amazing opera singers that I just looked up in awe, and went to Julliard and Manhattan School of Music to pursue opera, and traveled all around the world, singing in opera houses as well as here in New York at City Opera, and then kind of accidentally transferred into the world of Broadway by doing 3 Divas that needed 3 opera singers that could sing in 8 styles of music, and made that transition really honestly by accident. And then my Broadway debut was with Sondheim with Barbara Cook and Vanessa Williams and Norm Lewis and Tom Wopat. So it was my the turn. I kind of dip into all these different genres now and musical centers that really make me happy. And it's, people ask me like, which style do I prefer the most? And there really isn't one, because I love the versatility of being able to seamlessly go in and out of these different genres. And that is what like really makes me the most happy, to be able to like one day sing an aria from La Boheme, and the next day sing a new musical number from the Dorothy Dandridge musical, and sing something that's Broadway. And then a couple of days ago, I just did my own show at the Jazz Club at the Amman Hotel. So I do a lot of jazz as well. So it's just, music is my passion, and all the different styles is what really drives me on a daily basis.
That's incredible. And I gotta say, getting your Broadway start with first show out of the gate with Sondheim on Sondheim with Barbara Cook, Vanessa Williams, Norm Lewis, that is no laughing matter.
No, it isn't. And they were so wonderful to work with. And I thank my every day, to be able to work with Barbara Cook, like before she had passed away. I mean, such a legend, and to be able to share the stage with her was definitely a blessing in disguise, and just really like pinching myself on a daily basis, like being at that Roundabout Theater and working with James Lapine and Stephen Sondheim himself. And I even have like letters that he had typed that he left that backstage for me, and just having these really milestone relationships really helped my journey as I continue to develop as an artist.
Absolutely. I really hope that I bet you have kept and made sure that you kept all of Mr. Sondheim's typed letters.
Yes, I do. I do.
That's wonderful. So I want to talk to you about, because your education background, because you mentioned both of them, because you have to attend Juilliard and the Manhattan School of Music are two of the most celebrated performing arts schools in the country. So what were some of the lessons that you learned from both of these schools that helped you grow as a performer?
Yes, the school environment was always like so key to me, because it was really important for, I feel like I flourished more in a smaller environment. So like, both of these schools are conservatories, and really, really hone in and focus on the performing aspect, as well as, learning, humanities and the music history and all that stuff. But very different than, I would say, like a music school, like that's part of a university, right? Something like a University of Michigan or things, it's just very, very different. And I, being born and raised in New York and having New York as like your campus, definitely wasn't a bad thing, definitely gained my street smarts. But Manhattan School of Music, as an undergraduate, was definitely many pivotal moments at that school, because this was the first time, being exposed to these amazing teachers that are so educated, and many of them have had careers too in the music business and are teaching. And then also during the summer times, I would work. It was always nonstop. During the summers, I would sing at the music camps like Aspen Music Festival, Tanglewood, sing with Israel Music, Vocal Arts. So every summer in between, like it was always nonstop. Like I would go to school during a year, and then during the summers, like it wasn't a vacation. It was going to Italy to sing Despina and Così fan tutte in Rome, for the summer. So like, and then being able to experience Italy for the summer, that was sort of like my campus, like going away and exploring like a different culture, while in college, but still doing something that I love to do. So it like really, it was, you have to, as I always say, like, do not do this unless you literally can like eat, sleep, breathe this art form, because you can't, there's no point of just doing 50%. You have to do like 250% of it in order to you get out what you put in. And at Manhattan School of Music, they getting the foundation. I was fortunate to have the same vocal teacher throughout Manhattan School of Music and the Julliard School. Both conservatories share a lot of the teachers, which is wonderful, but both experiences are very different. And I was with Edith Burse, and she was literally like a second mom to me. And you start to attach yourself to your teachers, and because you depend on them so much. And I'm really, really blessed to have started at Manhattan School of Music, because I felt that that experience was very family oriented. You still had a competitiveness, but it was very, very nurturing, right? Um, and even to this day, the president of Manhattan School of Music, Jim Gandry, will come and see my shows on Broadway, and I will always try, if there's any type of outreach tickets that some of the Broadway theaters do to some of the schools, I'll always list my school so that some of the students from Manhattan School of Music and Julliard can come and see the show, like either a discounted rate or free tickets for students. So I'm always trying my best to give back to the community, especially to schools that have given so much to me. And I loved Manhattan. It was, I had my first boyfriend experience at Manhattan School of Music, and, my first dealing with singing, doing competitions. My vocal teacher recommended me to Westchester Philharmonics. I had my first symphony engagement while I was studying as an undergrad at Manhattan School of Music. They had, concerto competitions, and I did musical there too. So it was a lot of learning and experiencing while there. And then when I moved to the graduate degree at Julliard, it was much more professional, like getting ready for the world scenario. Not that Manhattan School of Music wasn't that as well, but when I was at Julliard, I had gotten a contract with Columbia Artists through their community concert series. So one really wonderful thing about Julliard, especially as a graduate student, they released me for 2 weeks at a time, where I could go out and do performances and still come back and continue with my schooling with the degree. So as long as, all the teachers sign off on it and the dean signs off on it, and they were very supportive about that. So I started doing solo recital concerts around the US through the community concert series for, oh my gosh, about 2 years, like 2 years out of my graduate degree at Julliard. I was studying at Julliard, but then also performing and creating my own recital programs. And I would tour with a pianist, and then my dad would come and meet me every now and then. It was funny because I did not know how to drive. I did not have a license. So a lot of these tours would entail, it didn't make any sense to fly to each city. Like some of them were very close to each other, but you had to like drive 3 hours here and drive 4 hours there. So part of the requirements of my pianist, I needed to have a pianist that had a driver's license so that they could drive.
Yeah, oh, believe me, I've been living in Kansas City. When I lived in New York from June 2017 to May 2021, I still had my driver's license. However, I had to save some money, so I had to say goodbye to my vehicle.
Yeah, so I mean, I drive a lot now, but at that time in college, I didn't know how to drive. And so, you would think, like the job description must, like be able to I needed them to be flexible with being able to play from classical music to spirituals to jazz. Like even then I was mixing the genres in my recitals, but then it was like, must have a valid driver's license, and then my dad would come on some of these tours, and then he would relieve my pianist. She was always so happy when my dad would come, because then he would drive and she'd get to relax in the car, but so Juilliard was definitely a wonderful, amazing school to make my transition from artist student to professional artist. I got a chance to work with Frank Casaro before he passed away, and he was the director of the Julliard Opera Center. And when it was not popular to give supporting roles to master students because it was always focused on the Juilliard Opera Center singers, he gave me a role in the Italian Straw Hat. And because of that role that I did with JOC, I got a review in Opera News and then got an offer to sing at City Opera as soon as I graduated from school. So it's those opportunities of teachers and coaches that truly like see that special light in you and want to give you a platform for you to perform in. And then because Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music are, the premier conservatories, the press is always coming to their performances, agents and managers always coming to check out the new talent. And so it was really a blessing to be able to go to both of those schools and have both of those schools on my resume and have relationships and friendships that I still have to this day from those beginning stages of my career.
Which is amazing to have them. And then, so speaking of career, we got to talk about your Broadway experience.
Yeah.
And because you originated Mary Wells, one of the most important members of the Motown family, for the Motown musical. So how did you hear about that? And what kind of lessons did you learn from your preparedness on playing Miss Wells?
Well, with Motown, I mean, everyone knows about Motown, right? I mean, like I grew up on Motown music because my parents loved it, and you have all these great hits from the 60s that are still being played even now. That all of those artists that came from the Motown Records era is just still thriving to this day, right? And I got a chance, actually. I was singing in a Motown review show in Monte Carlo, of all places. And there was a gentleman that heard me sing in the audience and knew Berry Gordy.
Oh,
So
wow.
so he connected me to Berry Gordy because he heard me singing in this Motown review show that he thought was like super awesome. And he said, "Well, Mr. Gordy needs to hear you, like, because you're so talented." And that is how I actually got connected to Berry Gordy, from just a friend of his sitting in the audience and watching me perform. And then one thing led to the other. And then I found out about the auditions, and Mr. Gordy, through that whole process, became my mentor. And, I was able to not only be a part of the show as Mary Wells, but I also got to sit in on, their writing sessions when they were like actually writing the script and developing it. So I really had like a whole behind the scenes experience of the making of Motown the musical before it came to Broadway, which many artists don't really have that opportunity to be on the other side. So it was that experience that encouraged me and led me to start developing my own shows, because of seeing how just seeing all the different moving parts, and that just, it was so exciting to me. And so I felt like I needed to do more than just, listen, it's, as an artist, we have to go through the whole audition process every day, right? You go and you stand in front of a huge table of creatives, and they have certain ideas in their head as to what they're looking for when they are casting for different roles. And you can always try and second guess yourself and try and figure out, like, I wonder what they're looking for. I wonder what, should I wear this? Should I sing like this? Should I talk like this? And you just have to like be as, I've now being in this business for so long, you just have to be as authentic as possible and put yourself into that role. And if that is what hits, that is what hits. If you don't get a role, it's mainly, sometimes it has nothing to do with your talent whatsoever. It's because you were too tall or too short, or they wanted a different sound for that role, or something a little brighter in the tone, or something more raspy, or like, we beat ourselves all the time about like not getting certain jobs. But like I always say, like, it's actually a blessing in disguise, because you didn't get it for a reason. And that that role was meant for someone else to get. And so there's other doors that are opening for you. So being able to be a part of the behind the scenes and seeing how people think and what they're looking for when people are coming in was fascinating to me, which is why I wanted to start creating my own shows as well. And hearing these stories about these artists that we worship so much, like the Martha Reeves and the Vandellas and Diana Ross and Gladys Knight and Smokey Robinson and Stevie Wonder and everyone, all these artists that were still living came to see Motown the musical like multiple times. I got a chance to talk to Diana Ross multiple times and Stevie Wonder, and like it's just these icons that all came out to see how we were going to portray them on the Broadway stage, right? It was just an out of body experience to say the least. So I'm a better artist now because of that experience of originating Mary Wells and meeting, and sadly Mary Wells, had passed away many years before Motown the musical was created, but I got a chance to meet Aretha Franklin, who was apparently really, really great friends with Mary Wells, and sent me flowers backstage with an amazing note saying how like I brought back wonderful memories to her because her and Mary were such good friends. And just to know that I made that connection to Aretha Franklin and brought back memories of her days in Detroit with Mary Wells was just enough for me to just like die in a happy place.
I gotta say, if you not only please Mr. Gordy and please Miss Ross and Mr. Robinson, but the Queen of Soul is another. It's like to have them hear from you, and like especially from the Queen of Soul. That's why my jaw gasped, because the thing is,
Yes.
like out of Motown, outside of Motown, she's probably one of the greatest vocalists of all time, and probably one of
All
the greatest singers
time.
of all
Come on.
time. And then you get these notes of appreciation from Miss Franklin, who knew the character who knew Miss Wells. That must mean so much to artists. Not a lot of artists do get stuff like that.
No. So I count my blessings every day for those experiences. Aretha is like Queen of Soul. I mean, she was a full package. I mean, Aretha was an amazing pianist, musician, composer, singer. I mean, it's not a lot of people can reach the level that Aretha. I mean, she raised the bar so high.
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of people
And
to this day.
was very frank too. Like she was no BS. Like Aretha will tell you exactly how she feels, and got to have elephant skin if it's not so good, right? But
Absolutely, you.
because she didn't play, like she just was her. She's like, this is who I am, and this is what I give to the world, and what she gave to the world was so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to talk. Speaking of Broadway behind the scenes process, I want to talk about Dandridge, because you're starring as the legendary Dorothy Dandridge, and you are in this Broadway bound that's celebrating her life. So, how did you get the idea of the show, and how have you and your team made sure that the younger generations are inspired by Miss Dandridge's legacy?
Yes, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, Berry Gordy was my mentor for many years. And as a result, I started having I was under Shelley Berger's management for a stint of time. And he also manages the Temptations. And many, many years ago, he also used to manage the Jackson Five and Diana Ross, because he was like the prime manager for a lot of the Motown artists, because he was part of the Motown team and also best friends with Berry Gordy. So when I had met Mr. Gordy, he had introduced me to Shelley Berger, and Shelley Berger and I hit it off to the point where he wanted to manage me. And it was actually Shelley Berger's idea about the Dorothy Dandridge. We were talking about projects and icons that I like truly related to, and he I mentioned Dorothy Dandridge, and at the time I never produced, like a musical in that sense. And he was just like, well, what about the idea of doing a musical around Dorothy Dandridge? And like, it was his idea. And then of course I just like took that little idea and ran with it because I was like, okay, see you later, bye. And he's like, well, no, I didn't mean for you to actually create the show. I like, maybe an idea that you can give to a producer to produce the show for you, right? Well, I was just like, well, why would I give it to someone else to produce when I can produce it myself? And like literally went full steam ahead in investigating like the concept of how I would want to present her life, celebrating her, and then putting together a team that I thought would be like an immaculate team to truly showcase this beautiful light of stardom that she had through not just in America but also in Europe and the UK, and put together the creative team led by Tamara Tooney as a director, and then two-time Emmy winner Trey Ellis as a book writer, and then he also is a co-lyricist with Shelton Becton, who composed the music. And I feel like I have an all-star team. I produced it at Carnegie Hall a few summers ago, for the first time ever, for people just to hear the music from the show and like be intrigued by like, ooh, what's next? Just to give them a little snippet, like here's a concert version of some of our greatest hits from the musical. And then that went off really, really successfully. And then we did a presentation fully on its feet at the New York Theater Festival here in New York City in December. And not only did we receive the most nominations of all the musicals and plays in this past season, but we also got the most wins as a musical. So I'm very, very proud of our team. We had a 12 cast member of amazing singer and dancers from Broadway and beyond. And now we are working on bringing it to Broadway by doing a regional theater before then. And we've gotten some really, really wonderful attention from new producers and investors and theaters that really want to see this show like fully on its feet, costumes, musicians, and lights and cameras and all of that stuff. So it's definitely a difficult task, but also enriching at the same time, because it's if anyone tells you that it's easy to bring a show to Broadway, they're lying to you. They're lying. But this is a story that I think is so important, and also a story where there are people who aren't familiar with Dorothy Dandridge, and we have to realize that Dorothy Dandridge is American history. She is an American artist that chose to stay here in America to break through during a time that no African American women were breaking through in the 50s and 60s. And the only one of the main reasons why she ended up going overseas to start doing more movies after Carmen Jones and Porgy and Bess, was because at that time it was illegal to have interracial kissing on screen. Like, it was because of stupid laws like that is why she started doing more movies internationally. And internationally they loved and adored her, and Carmen Jones, just that movie alone just catapulted her stars so high and so shiny that she was a household name and was the first African American woman to be nominated for an Oscar in an outstanding leading actress category. Like, she started that. And then Halle Berry was the first woman to win it. It's like it took almost 50 more years for a woman to actually win the award, and Dorothy's name was the first name that came out of Holly's mouth when she accepted that Oscar in like tears and emotion, so she is so important to not just us as Black women, but just women in general, or anyone who is is fighting the fight to be recognized, to be noticed, to have their talent show without over how they look or the color of their skin or the race or who they love. It's just
Mhm.
her story is so important, and so every day it's my it's my passion to make sure that people truly appreciate Dorothy's star.
And I think Kenji, I think you're going to do a fabulous job because the first time I heard about Dorothy Dandridge was Halle Berry's film.
Yes, yes, yes. Introducing Dorothy, so we just got to keep pushing and keep pushing so that all these unsung heroes are celebrated, in their fullness.
Absolutely, absolutely. We cannot start, end, or like continue this conversation without talking about Goosebump moment. I love that song. And
Thank
it was a
you.
it was wonderful. I loved hearing your upper register. I loved hearing that. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do, I don't have that. I'm a choir kid that has, that's it. I love that one. So that song is just phenomenal. And can you share that story behind that with my audience?
Absolutely, yes. Well, I co-wrote this song with Preston Glass, and when I was in LA, and it's I wanted to have a song that really had an international flair to it, and which is why I've incorporated all these different languages. And the song itself is it's literally about, when I mentioned to you, like, after I graduated from college, I started traveling around. I was singing, with Vienna Camera Opera. I was singing with Opera State in Italy. I was doing recitals right outside of Munich, Germany. I mean, it was just great. I was traveling all over. And so this song is very biographical in a way when it comes to from the traveling essence of it. And that is why I have, like, ja, ich liebe das Leben, and, que sera se la vie mon ami. I was throwing in all these different, some Spanish, some Romanian, some French, some German, and just to kind of give it that world music flair, because it really was biographical of my experience. And I think with a lot of songwriting, many songwriters write about the things that they've experienced. And so this specific song was basically based on me traveling, like, through Germany and Spain and Italy, and having these experiences with suitors and people trying to charm me, because I was this American girl and, new to the country and performing on stage, and really kind of realizing that, despite all the suitors that I was being approached with, that I found the one and only, which is my husband, Simeon. He's Romanian. And there's this line in Romanian, "Tu centru vieci mele simi," and it's just saying, like, how much I love him and that he's the one and only for me. And so that's the last foreign line that I have in this song, because it all talks about the Germany and the French and Spanish. So and then the Goosebump moment, that title is inspired by Oprah Winfrey. Oprah used to always say Oprah like she's my friend. I mean, Miss Winfrey. But we all say Oprah because, that is her branding, the Oprah magazine, and, but
The Oprah effect.
So, like, no disrespect by saying Oprah, but it's just, that's who she is. And she used to always say, "Oh, that gave me a goosebump moment," when she had her television show and all these different things that would give her a goosebump moment. And so that is the title. The title of the show is inspired by her always saying that, and me watching her TV shows all the time, and realizing that all these different experiences that I had, when you really hit that chemistry with that person that you love, that one and only, you get that goosebump moment. So that goosebump moment is the moment that I met my husband at that time, the my boyfriend. But that goosebump moment is that moment where you're like, ooh, okay, this one's different than the others. And so that goosebump moment is inspired by Oprah, but also inspired by that immediate reaction when you meet someone really special and you know that this is different than the others.
Awesome, awesome. We got to start winding down the conversation. So, where is the best place that my audience can connect with you on social media?
Absolutely. I am on Instagram. I'm Diva Nikenge, so Diva and then Nkenge on all the social platforms. I try and keep it consistent. So it's Diva Nikenge it on Twitter. I have Nikenji's music on Facebook for those who want to do Facebook. Diva Nikenji on TikTok. Diva Nikenji in Instagram. NikenjiMusic.com is my website. And there is also I have a link tree that's connected to my Instagram page that they can sign up and receive newsletters. So I send out newsletters twice a month as for people to know where I'm performing. If I'm going to be doing any TV experiences, then they can, no matter where they are, they can kind of tune in or live stream concerts and things like that. So always sign up at nikenjimusic.com or on my link tree through Instagram. And or send me a DM. I always respond to DMs and always love to meet and greet new people that are enjoying my music. And my music, Goosebump Moment, is on all platforms: iTunes, Spotify, everywhere, Amazon. So, listen to the tune and write a review and check it out.
Awesome. So, guys, if you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. It's Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. And guys, you want to hear my take on Goosebump Moment and found out what's going on with Masked Singer this season, who won America's Got Talent Fantasy League, visit the blog that started it all, jakes-shake.com. Once again, jakes-shake.com. Nikenji, it was an honor and privilege to welcome you. And thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it too.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.